Hey guys, tonight we journey into a world you think you know, but trust me, you don't. You've seen the marble columns. You've heard the name Caesar. Maybe you even watched a movie where a gladiator screamed about vengeance. But that's not what this is. That's not what tonight is. Because tonight, you're not the emperor. You're not the senator in purple silk. You're not even the guy who feeds grapes to the senator. You're just you, dropped without warning into the stone, smoke, and sewage of the Roman Empire. Before we go any further, take a moment to gently tap the like button and subscribe if these strange historical journeys help you unwind. And in the comments, tell me what time it is where you're listening from. Midnight in Michigan, 3 a.m. in Tokyo. I always love seeing where these stories find you. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft hum in the background. Get your blankets just right. And let's slip together into tonight's story. Tonight's journey. Why you wouldn't last a day in the Roman Empire. No togas, no gods, no glory. Just grime, gossip, and an overwhelming smell of fish sauce. Imagine opening your eyes to the sound of chickens fighting. Someone's baby is already crying, and someone else's prayer is echoing off the crumbling stone walls. You're lying on a sack of straw that smells like mildew and long-forgotten ambitions. The air is thick with smoke, and your neighbor is coughing again. Loudly, wetly, probably contagious. You live in an insula. That's Latin for hope you don't fall through the floor. It's a Roman apartment block, 4 stories tall, built of wood, stone, and bad decisions. You're on the 3rd floor, which is great until you remember. In Roman real estate, the higher you go, the poorer you are. And the faster you die when the place catches fire, which happens often. You've got no toilet, no kitchen, no privacy. Your possessions, a tunic, a clay cup, and a chamber pot you're going to have to carry downstairs very soon. Down steep, rotting stairs, wearing sandals with 0 traction. And if you think your day gets better after that, you're about to meet the communal latrine and the shared sponge. Welcome to Rome, a civilization of aqueducts, mosaics, and horrifying daily discomforts. You won't last a day. But for the next 2 hours, we're going to walk through all of it, slowly, sleepily, and in full sensory detail. You'll eat their food, wash like they did, labor like they did. You'll itch, you'll shiver, you'll stare at the ceiling and pray not to die from a minor splinter. So settle in. You've just woken up in the Roman Empire. You open your eyes, but something's wrong. The light isn't electric. It's not soft or warm or shaped by a lampshade. It's natural, gray, indifferent, slanting through a hole in the wall no bigger than your hand. You're not in your bed. There is no bed. You're lying on something scratchy. Not scratchy like cheap sheets. Scratchy like straw. Actual, sharp, poking, dirty straw, stuffed into a sack and flattened into submission beneath the weight of your aching body. It's your mattress now. And yes, it smells exactly like it looks. Musty, earthy, and vaguely wet. Like hay left too long in a barn with a goat that no one fed. Your blanket, wool, thick, stiff, and unwashed, smelling of body heat and regret. There's a crust forming at the edge. You're not going to ask what it is. No one does. You try to stretch, but space is limited. Your home is not a home. It's a cubicula, a single room in a Roman insula or apartment block, nestled somewhere in a smoky corner of the Subura district. That's Rome's affordable housing, the one that occasionally collapses, catches fire, or houses 10 people in a space designed for 2. The walls are stone, but not majestic marble. Just brick covered in faded lime plaster. In summer, they sweat. In winter, they crack. Right now, they're doing both. There's a single hole in the wall that pretends to be a window. It lets in the morning smoke, a pigeon's wing, and the soft dripping sound of someone else's bathwater hitting your balcony from above. Your ears pick up more. Always more. There's a baby crying 3 doors down. You've never seen the baby, but you've heard every stage of its development, from wail to scream to rage, shriek. Someone's arguing. Someone else is singing badly. A distant door slams. A chicken clucks. A man 2 rooms over is coughing again, harsh and wet. You know that cough. It's what the Romans call phthasis. We call it tuberculosis. Your eyes sting, not because you're crying, but because the air in here is a mixture of smoke, dust, mildew, and the morning breath of several thousand strangers. There's no ceiling light, no bulb to click. Just a thin oil lamp on a shelf, already burned low and sputtering. It flickers, casting long, stretched shadows across the uneven floor. It smells like fat and smoke and old fish. You sit up, carefully. Your head thuds slightly. The wine from last night wasn't strong, but it was unsettling. Mixed with water that came through lead pipes, yes. Lead. The Romans were brilliant engineers. They just hadn't worked out neurotoxins yet. You look down at yourself. Your tunic is creased, coarse and clinging. It's the only one you own. You've slept in it, sweated in it, and now you'll wear it again. Laundry day is theoretical. Beneath your straw bed, a mouse rustles. You hope it's alone. It probably isn't. There are roaches, too, and fleas, and lice which you will feel crawling on your scalp sometime around mid-morning. You hear footsteps outside, heavy ones. A man is descending the stairwell, which is made of narrow planks held together with hope. Every third step groans like a dying ox. If you had to run in an emergency, fire, for example, you wouldn't make it. The stairwell would collapse. They usually do. You glance at the corner of the room. The chamber pot is full again. It's a basic terracotta pot, decorated only with your shame. You'll need to empty it soon. Down the gutter out front, along with everyone else's morning regrets. You'll try to time it between foot traffic. If you miss, well, Roman streets are known for their hazards. There is no sink, no soap, no toothbrush, no towel. Your morning routine consists of don't step in anything soft, and don't forget your sandals. Your sandals. Flat leather soles held on with rope. Zero padding. No arch support. The Romans walked everywhere. Miles and miles of cobbled stone and uneven steps. You're about to join them. Your feet will hate you by midday. Your calves will scream. You stand. Your knees pop like bad knuckles. Your back creaks. You're 27, but you feel like 47, or 97, or just eternally exhausted. The air outside the door is no better. A hallway shared with 7 other tenants, none of whom believe in quiet voices or subtle body odor. As you open the door, you're hit with the morning scent of Rome. It's not the Rome of postcards or documentaries. It's the Rome of reality. Hot bread and raw sewage, perfumed courtesans and sweating workers, sour wine, frying oil, fish sauce, horse dung, and humanity. All of it baked together under the rising Mediterranean sun. Down the hall, a neighbor is arguing with his wife. You hear every word. Someone is singing a hymn to Jupiter. Someone else is offering prayers to their household gods, Lares and Penates, the invisible roommates you keep on a shelf, feed offerings to, and beg for protection when the aqueducts run dry. You step into the shared stairwell. It's dark, tight, and leaning ever so slightly toward collapse. You clutch the wall with one hand and your chamber pot with the other. Each step is a gamble. One is sticky, one is wet, one is missing entirely. You pass the second floor, wealthier tenants with slightly more room and slightly fewer fleas. You hate them a little. At the bottom, the first floor, bakers, merchants, and the lucky few who can afford both firewood and sleep. They're already up. The bakery oven is glowing. The bread smells incredible, crusty, warm, tantalizing, and completely out of your price range. You open the front door and step into the street. Rome is already alive. And you, sleep-deprived and sore, are now officially behind schedule. The cobbles are damp with more than rain. Vendors shout. Goats scream. Someone dumps a pot of something brown out of a window. You dodge it. Barely. And the day hasn't even started. Welcome to the Roman Empire. No Wi-Fi. No plumbing. No mercy. Just a city of stone, sweat, superstition, and survival. You rub your eyes. You breathe in through your nose. You immediately regret that. And now, it's time to find a latrina and some stale bread. The empire waits for no one. You've survived the stairs, the neighbor's prayers, and the pigeon that almost flew into your face on the way out. But now you've got 2 problems. 1, your bladder. 2, your stomach. And unfortunately, in Rome, neither will be satisfied with any dignity. Let's start with hygiene. A word the Romans didn't really have, or at least not in the way we think of it today. There's no sink in your apartment. There's no toothbrush. There's no morning shower, hot or cold. What you do have is your own body, a cup of water, and the ever-present public latrina, Rome's version of the community bathroom, which you approach now, bracing yourself. The latrina sits near the corner of the street, tucked between a wine shop and a merchant selling what may or may not be figs. It's essentially a long stone bench, with evenly spaced holes. You know what those holes are for. You step inside. The smell is everything you'd feared, a sour mix of humanity and time. There's no privacy. None. No walls between you and the man next to you, who greets you with a cheerful nod while mid-squat. He starts talking. Something about grain prices. You pretend to listen. Eye contact is not advised. Unfortunately, across from you is another row of holes, directly facing yours. So yes, in this public restroom, people are squatting, face to face. It's not just awkward, it's an ancient social experience. There's a shallow gutter running beneath the bench. Water trickles through, just enough to move things along. In theory, in practice, things get stuck. A lot. And now comes the worst part. Wiping. There's no toilet paper. There's the tersorium, a sponge on a stick, sitting in a bucket of vinegar or salt water. Used communally. You pick it up. It drips. You pause and wonder. How many people before you have... No. Don't wonder. Just do it. You wipe carefully, hesitantly, hoping the vinegar did its job. You set the sponge back into the bucket like it's a live grenade and promise yourself you'll never speak of this moment again. You rinse your hands in the basin near the entrance. It's filled with cloudy water that's seen more fingers than a handshake competition. There's no soap. You shake your hands dry and pretend that helps. You step back into the street. And now, it's time for breakfast. Welcome to the Iantaculum, or as it's sometimes called, the let's not die of hunger meal. Roman breakfast is not what you think. There are no eggs, no bacon, no toast, no butter, no honey nut anything. There is bread, always bread, sometimes olives, if you're lucky. You head to the food vendor near the square. His stall smells like old flour and resignation. He offers you a chunk of panis rusticus, the rough, stone-baked peasant bread made from barley or emmer wheat. It's hard, really hard. You could probably use it to build a small wall. You gnaw at the corner. It tastes like it was baked yesterday. It wasn't. It was baked last week. And it comes with a crunchy surprise, bits of grit from the stone mill. So yes, you are now slowly sanding down your molars. To wash it down? Wine. But not good wine. And not strong wine. Watered down vinegar wine. Because Roman water isn't safe. It flows through lead pipes, seeps through public fountains, and occasionally smells like it came out of a bathhouse drain. The Romans, genius that they were, diluted wine for daily use. Not to get drunk, just to not die. You sip. It's sour, faintly fermented. You make a face. A nearby child laughs. You pretend it was on purpose. If you've got a few extra coins, which you probably don't, you could add a bit of garum to your bread. Garum is fermented fish sauce, not fish-flavored. Fermented. Fish. Sauce. It's what the Romans put on everything. Think of it like ketchup. If ketchup were made by burying fish guts in jars and letting the Mediterranean sun do the rest. You dab a little on your bread. You immediately regret it. There's no such thing as a proper kitchen in your home. Cooking indoors is forbidden in most insulae. The fire risk is just too great. So, if you want anything warm, you have to get it from a vendor. You spot a man with a little clay oven cart. He's selling pulse, a kind of boiled grain porridge made with water and a whisper of crushed beans. You trade a coin for a wooden bowl. It's hot. That's something. But it tastes like the inside of a damp barrel. Still, it fills your stomach. You sit on a low wall. Next to you, an old man chews his bread with deliberate bitterness. A girl nearby drinks something from a cracked ceramic cup. A stray dog eyes everyone like it owns the place. And above you, the sun climbs higher. casting the tenement roofs in sharp, dusty light. You glance down the street. More vendors, more noise. Someone is selling hot chickpea fritters, panes fritus, little golden lumps of possibility. You reach for your coin pouch. Empty. Of course. You sigh. A boy walks by with a honey cake. You want to rob him. You don't. And now it's time for what little grooming Rome allows. You dip a rag into a fountain. The water is cold. You wipe your face, pat your neck, try to brush your hair into something that doesn't look like it was styled by a cartwheel. For dental care, you chew on a twig. Yes, a twig. Or maybe rub your gums with charcoal. Minty freshness is not a concept. You spit. The taste of smoke and old wine lingers. There's no deodorant. Some people use olive oil mixed with ashes. Others use nothing. You'll smell like a mix of smoke, sweat, wool, and stale garum by noon. Just like everyone else. Your clothes stick to you. Wool tunic, slightly damp, stiff in the shoulders. Your belt is just a rope. You check your sandals again. One's already fraying. It's time to go, you're late. You sling your bag, a satchel with a few tools, maybe a wax tablet, a piece of bread for later, and your last shred of optimism. You won't need it. You've eaten, if that's what we're calling it. You've cleaned yourself with a bucket and your own determination. Your bowels are emptied. Your stomach is less empty. And your dignity? It's hiding somewhere near the sponge bucket. But it's time now. The workday begins. And in Rome, that means back-breaking labor, chaos in the streets, and a long, dusty walk to a job that doesn't know the meaning of OSHA. So lace up your sandals, adjust your tunic, and don't forget to dodge the mule cart on your way out. Because now, it's time to go to work. Your feet hit the street, uneven, noisy, and already half covered in spilled wine and donkey droppings, and you feel every cobble through your sandals. Let's talk about what you're wearing. Because the Roman Empire may have been glorious, but your outfit is absolutely not. Your tunic, your only tunic, is made of coarse wool. Not the cozy, soft, Instagrammable kind. This wool is thick, itchy, and woven just tight enough to make you sweat, and just loose enough to let fleas crawl through it with ease. It's beige, but not by design. It used to be white, or something close to white. Now it's stained with sweat, olive oil, and something you think might be garum, but you don't remember eating garum that day. There are 2 holes, one under your arm, one near your thigh. You've sewn them up 3 times already. They keep coming back. The tunic is like a living thing, and it hates you. There's no underwear. Romans didn't always wear any, and you definitely don't. You've got a rope belt, tied in a lopsided knot, and your leather sandals are held together with sheer determination. These sandals, soleil, are flat, thin, and entirely unsuited to the nightmare that is a Roman street. You feel every crack, every pebble, every questionable puddle. No socks, no cushion. Just your raw, unprotected feet slowly becoming archaeology. If it rains, you're soaked. If it's sunny, you're sweating. If it's winter, you'd better have access to a second tunic or a very friendly goat. And now let's consider what awaits you when you go home tonight. Your shelter. The Roman Insula, an ancient apartment block that makes modern landlords look like saints. You live on the third or fourth floor, not because you like the view, but because that's all you can afford. And in Roman engineering, higher up means closer to death. These buildings are made of brick, wood, plaster, and shortcuts. Built fast, built cheap, built by men who were paid more for speed than for safety. They're tall, narrow, and lean like they're whispering secrets to each other. Fires? Oh yes, insulae are famous for burning down. Wood beams, open flames, crowded rooms. No fire department. The closest thing to firefighting is a man with a bucket and a prayer. Your room is a cell, barely large enough to lie down in. No kitchen, no bathroom, no walls that block sound. The man next door has night terrors. The woman across the hall snores like a dying gladiator. And the walls, oh, the walls are paper thin. You hear everything. Prayers, arguments, love, regret, flatulence. All part of the acoustic tapestry of Roman communal living. There's no insulation. In summer, the walls sweat. You sweat. Everyone sweats. In winter, your room is a meat locker, and the only meat inside it is you. You heat your room with a small clay brazier if you're lucky, but that clay brazier emits smoke, and smoke rises. That's how the last family on the top floor died. You don't cook inside, ever. Fires spread fast. The building is made of wood, and your neighbor's dinner becomes your funeral pyre in under 15 minutes. So meals are taken on the street or from vendors. The Popinoi, street-side taverns that sell hot food, cheap wine, and cholera. Your floor is dirt or stone. You sweep it occasionally, not because it helps, but because it gives the rats something to run from. And oh yes, then the rats. They're everywhere. Big, bold, and fearless. They'll steal your bread, chew your sandals, and nibble your toes while you sleep. You pretend they're cats. It helps. Let's step back for a moment and talk about privacy. There is none. If you're middle or lower class, and you are, you likely share your room with others. Family, friends, random travelers. Sleep is a group activity. Snoring is mandatory, and space is a suggestion. If someone is ill, you're exposed. If someone is loud, you're involved. If someone dies, you live with the smell for days until someone agrees to carry the body down those death trap stairs. Lighting? You've got a lamp. Singular. An oil lamp that burns olive oil and gives off more smoke than light. At night, it flickers weakly, casting long shadows on your wall and making your neighbor's silhouette look like a demon stretching its spine. Windows? If you're lucky, there's a tiny opening in the wall. No glass. Just a hole. If it rains, the rain comes in. If there's wind, it howls. If there's noise, it multiplies. You cover it with a cloth, or a board, or nothing, because you're too tired to care. Now let's compare this to how the wealthy live, just for fun. A domus, a proper Roman house, has an atrium with fountains, mosaics, slaves, a personal latrine, a heated bath, and windows with actual shutters. The walls are painted. The floor is tiled. The rats are smaller. Some homes even have underfloor heating, hypocausts, where hot air travels under the tiles to keep the room warm. You, however, are still sleeping above a tavern, with fleas in your blanket and a water stain shaped like Jupiter above your bed. Let's not forget the pests. Your room has lice, bed bugs, mosquitoes, and the occasional flea circus. There's no spray, no powder, no repellent. You scratch, constantly. It's your new hobby. Laundry is rare. To wash your tunic, you haul it down to a public laundry, the Fulanica, where it's scrubbed using urine. Yes, urine. Human. Fresh. Sourced locally. It's cheap. It's effective. And it's revolting. Your clothes come back stiff, sour-smelling, and slightly less stained. You'll put it back on, still damp, because it's the only tunic you have. So let's recap. You're wearing a glorified sack. Your shoes are medieval flip-flops. You sleep in a glorified broom closet. Your bathroom is a stone bench shared with 20 strangers and a sponge. Your bed smells like soup and feet. And the roof above you might not be there tomorrow. And yet, this is normal. This is Roman daily life. This is what it means to be part of the plebs urbana, the urban poor, the backbone of the empire, invisible, itchy, and one missed rent payment away from the gutter. You step back into the sun. Your tunic clings to your back. Your sandals scrape against the stone. And now, after all that, you get to go to work. You're out the door, tunic sticking to your back, sandals already full of grit. The street is crowded, hot, and aggressively alive. And you're on your way to work. Not the kind of work with a desk and free coffee. No ergonomic chairs, no lunch break, no emails to ignore. This is Roman labor. It's brutal, it's loud, it's non-stop. And if you stop moving, someone else takes your job, or your bread, or your spot on the floor tonight. You're a plebeian, the ordinary working-class citizen of Rome. And unless you've got land, you don't. Political connections, definitely not. Or a generous dead uncle with an estate in Tuscany, you wish. Then you work. Every single day. So what do? Maybe you're a bricklayer. You arrive at the work site before sunrise. The foreman's already shouting. You haul bricks from a dusty pile to an even dustier scaffold. No gloves, no shoes with grip, no union. You mix lime mortar with your hands. Breathe in the powder. Cough. Keep going. The sun rises higher. You're on a wooden ladder that sways with every breath. You're sweating, shaking, and trying not to look down. Because the last guy who fell broke both legs and got replaced by lunchtime. Or maybe you're a porter. You carry cargo for the market stalls. Amphorae full of oil, wine, or fish sauce. Amphorae are ceramic, heavy, and extremely breakable. You break one, you pay. You walk miles across slippery stones. You step over gutters running with filth. You dodge carts, children, dogs, and people too important to see you. By noon, your shoulders are raw. Your back is spasming. Your nose is permanently filled with the aroma of garum, which is Latin for, please make it stop. Maybe you're a potter, or a shoemaker, or a dyer. You're skilled, sort of. You work in a cramped stall in a crowded alley, choked with smoke and sweat. You're competing with 15 others selling the same item, the same jug, the same sandals, the same wool, dyed with urine. Yes, urine. Again. You lower your prices to survive, but so does everyone else. By the end of the week, you've earned just enough to afford one stale loaf and half a bed. If you're unlucky, truly cosmically unlucky, you're a sewer worker. You climb into the Cloaca Maxima, the massive Roman sewer system that carries the city's waste toward the Tiber River. It's dark, cramped. You're chest deep in other people's digestive decisions. The air is thick with rot. The walls drip with things you don't name. There are rats, possibly crocodiles. Your job? Clear blockages, by hand, and try not to drown. The pay? Laughable. The smell? Eternal. Maybe you dream of something better, like being a scribe, a literate Roman who copies contracts, reads letters aloud, maybe works for a magistrate. You know how to write. That's rare. That's valuable. But don't get comfortable. You're hunched over wax tablets for hours. Your wrist cramps. Your eyes blur. Your boss, a bored aristocrat with a wine problem, calls you boy even though you're 32. Or maybe you're a tutor, a private teacher to some spoiled patrician's child. The child doesn't care. The child kicks you. You get paid in exposure and leftover figs. And the women? They're working too. If you're a woman in Rome, you're expected to do everything, while smiling, while silent, and preferably while invisible. You spin wool. You weave cloth. You sell vegetables. You bake bread. You care for children, clean the house, and manage the finances, if you're lucky enough to have any. Some women run stalls in the market. Some act as midwives. Others are hired out as wet nurses or laundry workers, scrubbing clothes with lie and hope. And then there are the women who work in taverns, serving drinks to loud men with rough hands, dodging gropes, swallowing insults. Sometimes, it's more than drinks they're expected to serve. There's no salary for most of these jobs. You're paid daily in cash, if you're paid at all. And if you're sick, injured, just tired, tough luck. There's no paid leave, no sick days, no compensation for crushed fingers or broken ribs. You show up or you starve. Let's say you make it to lunchtime, a meridiana, the Roman midday break. If you're lucky, your overseer gives you a half hour to shovel in a few bites of bread or porridge before yelling resumes. You eat sitting on a stone step, sharing a bowl with two other workers. One's missing 3 fingers. The other hasn't blinked since sunrise. You don't talk much. Talking uses energy. Energy is expensive. You finish your meal. If you're lucky, there's a fig. If you're really lucky, it's not fermented. And then right back to work. Afternoons are worse. The sun is directly overhead. Your sandals are melting. Your tunic clings like punishment. You carry bricks, or haul timber, or scrub blood off the floor of a butcher's stall. You do this while dodging carts, avoiding debt collectors, and praying your master, or foreman, doesn't decide you're suddenly replaceable. And you are replaceable, always. There are hundreds more just like you, desperate, hungry, ready to take your place the second you fall. And remember, the enslaved laborers have it even worse. They don't get paid. They don't get to quit. They clean latrines, work the fields, serve their owners, entertain their guests. Some are forced into mines, the worst fate of all. In the silver mines, they dig by torchlight, collapse from exhaustion, and die long before 30. And their suffering? Legally invisible. Still feel nostalgic for the glory of Rome? Because the truth is, the Colosseum wasn't built by philosophers. The aqueducts weren't carved by emperors. The forums weren't swept by gods. They were built by people like you. Poor, sweaty, breakable, doing work that breaks your back, blisters your skin, and shortens your life, just to survive another night in your lopsided apartment. The sun is setting now. Your tunic is soaked. Your arms ache. Your fingers are raw. Your head throbs. You've earned just enough for a crust of bread and a cup of wine that tastes like sour vinegar and hopelessness. And tomorrow, you do it all again, because in Rome, if you're not useful, you're disposable. You've survived another punishing day of labor. Your arms are noodles, your back is stiff, and your sandals are disintegrating. As you drag yourself home, past temples, shrines, and a dozen arguing philosophers, you realize something about Roman life. No matter how dirty, how painful, how grim it gets, you are never alone. Not because of friends, not because of family, because the gods are always watching. So are the spirits, and the omens, and the birds. In Rome, belief isn't optional. It's everywhere. It's baked into the bricks, scratched into tablets, whispered into your ears from birth. You live in a world haunted by the divine. Let's start small. Every Roman home, even your miserable rat-haunted insula room, contains a shrine. A tiny niche in the wall. Inside, clay figurines, faded offerings, crumbs, ash. These are the lares and penates, household gods. They guard your family, protect your fire, bless your stale bread. You greet them each morning with a bow, a whisper, or a crust of food, assuming the rats haven't beaten you to it. You pray to them when your back hurts, when your child coughs, when you're out of wine. They never speak, but you never stop talking to them. Because in Rome, if something goes wrong, it's probably your fault. You didn't pray. You didn't offer enough. You forgot to thank the gods for that bean stew last week. That's how Rome works. Divine guilt with a side of lentils. Now step outside. Rome is thick with religion. Temples on every corner. Shrines built into walls. Statues draped in garlands. Some so old the original god has probably forgotten they exist. Jupiter, god of sky and lightning, gets the big temple on the Capitoline Hill. He's the king of gods. His moods are weather. His anger is thunder. His approval, rare. Juno, his wife and queen, watches over marriage and women. And like most women in Rome, she's usually angry, especially at her husband. Mars, god of war, is everywhere, on helmets, shields, and the walls of your neighbor's tavern. The man is basically a celebrity with a sword. Then there's Venus, goddess of love, beauty, and uncomfortable temple rituals. She's worshipped with perfume, flowers, and nervous prayers before first dates. Each god has their domain, their rules, and their preferences. Make the wrong offering, say the wrong prayer, sacrifice the wrong bird, prepare for blisters, bad crops, spoiled wine, and rats in your breakfast. The gods are petty, divine, but petty. You don't just worship at temples, you live with superstition in your veins. Omens rule your daily life. A sneeze at the wrong time, a blackbird flying left, a dog howling before dawn. That's not coincidence. That's a message from the divine. If you trip on your way out the door, go back inside. Try again. The universe just said, "Not today." You consult augurs, priests who read the future in bird patterns. You ask haruspices to examine the liver of a sacrificed sheep. If the liver is smooth and healthy, good times ahead. If it's bumpy, shriveled, or smells weird, stay home and cancel all business meetings. And yes, this applies to emperors too. Before battles, leaders pause and ask, "Have the chickens eaten today?" If the sacred chickens won't eat, the battle is postponed. Seriously, Rome's military schedule is chicken-based. Let's talk about curses. Romans loved them. You could write a curse on a thin sheet of lead, roll it up, and bury it in a grave or well. These are called defictiones. They're personal, spiteful, and oddly specific. May Marcus, who stole my cloak, suffer boils, bad breath, and eternal limpness. Or, may Claudia trip on her own sandals and never find a husband. If you've got enemies, you've got options. Curses are the Yelp reviews of ancient Rome. Worried about evil spirits? You should be. They're everywhere. In corners, in crossroads, in the mist above the Tiber. To keep them at bay, you wear amulets, little charms shaped like fists, phalluses or eyes. Yes, phalluses. The Romans believed nothing scared a ghost like a well-placed wooden willy. They hang them from children's necks, paint them on walls, carve them into jewelry. If it looks obscene, it's probably sacred. You also shout things like, "Fastenum," a magical ward, or spit over your left shoulder, or whisper a prayer backwards. It's religion by chaos. But hey, it works. Probably. Then there's death. Death isn't just an event in Rome. It's a process. When someone dies, you close their eyes, call their name, and place a coin in their mouth. That's for Charon, the boatman of the underworld. No coin, no ride. No afterlife. The funeral involves torches, music, and a parade of professional mourners who wail dramatically, often louder than the family. You carry the body outside the walls. No burials inside the city. The dead stay out there, for your safety and for theirs. And once buried, you don't forget them. You visit their tomb. You leave offerings, milk, bread, honey. You whisper to them. You hope they're resting, because if they're not, they come back. Even your calendar is religious. Every day has meaning. Feast days, fast days, sacred days, forbidden days. Want to get married? Only certain days are allowed. Want to do business? Better check the calendar. Want to move into a new home? You need a priest and a chicken liver. In Rome, nothing is done casually. Everything is done with the gods in mind. But here's the strange part. Despite the rituals, the sacrifices, the curses and auguries and prayers, The gods rarely speak. They never appear. They never answer. And yet, you still believe. Because everyone believes. Because Rome runs on belief, not just in gods, but in order, in tradition, in the idea that unseen forces are keeping this mad empire from collapsing into fire and barbarian raids. You carry that belief with you. You rub the amulet. You whisper the prayer. You toss salt over your shoulder. And you hope it's enough. So tonight, before sleep, you light your oil lamp. You whisper to the Lares. You place a crust of bread in the shrine niche, even though you're hungry. You don't know if they'll answer, but you'd rather be safe than sorry. Because in Rome, one bad dream, one unlucky bird, one missed prayer can change everything. The sun has dipped below the rooftops. The marble glows golden for just a moment before the shadows rise and swallow the alleyways whole. Your day is done. Your back is a stiff board. Your feet feel like stone, and your stomach is growling like a barbarian at the gates. It's time for a meal, or at least Rome's version of one. Let's get this straight right now. You are not dining in a reclining toga beside golden goblets and roasted peacocks. You're poor. You're dirty. You're probably still wearing the same tunic you slept in. And your dinner tonight is a gamble. Meal number 1, what you can afford. You make your way toward the Popina, a low-end tavern packed into the base of an insula. There's no sign. Just the unmistakable scent of warm wine and overcooked beans wafting into the street. Inside, it's loud. It's dark. It's sticky. The floor is soaked in spilled wine and regret. The benches are slick with sweat. The cook is yelling at someone, possibly the goat. And there's a man passed out next to a broken amphora. But the food is cheap. That's all that matters. You pay a few worn coins and get a wooden bowl of pulse, Rome's working-class staple. It's a gruel. Boiled grains, a bit of chickpea flour, a hint of mystery oil. You poke it with your spoon. It wobbles. You eat it anyway. Some nights you get lucky. The stew contains lentils, or onions, or even a shred of goat meat. You savor every stringy bite like it's ambrosia, because it might be the only protein you get this week. Meal number 2, what you should probably avoid. The man next to you orders fish. Bad idea. Fish in Rome is everywhere, but refrigeration is nowhere. So it's not just fish. It's fish that traveled in the sun. Fish that sat out all day. Fish that smells like Poseidon's garbage dump. And yet, Romans love it, especially when turned into garum, the fermented fish sauce that flavors absolutely everything, from stew to dessert. Imagine mixing anchovies, seawater, and sun. Now let it rot for a few months. Now stir it into your lentils. That's garum. The rich buy the good stuff. Sweet, salty, aged in clay. You're getting the dregs. Thick, chunky. Smells like Neptune's armpit. You dip your bread in it anyway. You're hungry. Drink. The great equalizer water. Questionable. It flows through lead pipes and open gutters. So instead, you drink wine. But not the kind you're thinking of. Roman wine is diluted. Sometimes 3-1, water to wine. It's sour, almost vinegary, but safer than water and cheaper than dying of dysentery. You sip. It warms your chest. It also numbs the ache in your shoulders and the memory of whatever was in that stew. Want to eat at home? Good luck. You don't have a kitchen. Most people don't. Cooking inside an insula is illegal, too dangerous. Too many fires, too many bodies with nowhere to run. So if you want hot food, you buy it from a stall, a cart, or the tavern down the street. If you want cold food, you gnaw on day-old bread and wish you were someone else. Your best culinary tool, a clay bowl, maybe a spoon. If you drop either, that's dinner and dignity on the floor. But what about entertainment? Ah, now we're talking. Because even the poorest Roman needs a way to forget the pain, the fleas, and the fish sauce. Entertainment in Rome comes in 3 flavors. 1. Public baths, theaters and festivals, chaos and drinking. Public baths, the social hotspot. You head to the nearest thermae, public baths, before they close. It costs a tiny fee, cheaper than wine, pricier than dignity, but inside you get what passes for cleanliness and community. First, you strip. Yes, completely. Everyone does. You stow your clothes in a cubby and pray no one steals your sandals. You rinse in the tepidarium, warm water, then sweat in the caldarium, hot steam. Then brace yourself in the frigidarium, the cold plunge. You scrub yourself with a strigil, a curved bronze scraper. No soap, just oil and friction. There's shouting, laughing, debating, arguing. Deals are made. Gossip is traded. Someone's always quoting Virgil like they're clever. And then someone farts, and it echoes in the steam like Jupiter himself has spoken. You laugh. You feel almost human again. 2. Theater, games, and free bread. Sometimes. The government knows the people are tired, hungry, and poor, so they give you bread and circuses, free grain distributions, free shows at the amphitheater, free festivals with questionable dancers and loudly drunk poets. At the Colosseum, you can watch gladiators bleed for applause. At the Circus Maximus, you can watch chariots crash at terrifying speeds. You sit on stone steps for hours. You sweat. You cheer. You eat whatever the vendor is selling. Nuts, fried dough, cold sausage, questionable fish cakes. You're entertained, and for a few hours, you forget the itch in your tunic. 3. Popinae, Rome's dive bars. It's dark now. You wander back to the Popina. The lamps are lit. The floor is wetter. The customers are louder. There's dice on the table. Gambling is illegal, which means everyone is doing it. One man shouting about his winnings. Another is asleep in his soup. 2 women in painted makeup laugh too loudly near the counter. You don't ask questions. You sit. Sip sour wine. Someone plays a reed flute badly. Someone else recites obscene poetry. A third starts a fist fight. The tavern owner shrugs and keeps pouring. You lean your head against the cool wall. The noise blurs. The wine warms. The gruel turns in your stomach. But you don't care. Because for a moment, the pain fades. You're full. You're mildly drunk. You've survived. Eventually, you shuffle home. The streets are darker now. The oil lamps flicker in alcoves. Shadows shift. Rats dart. Somewhere a cat screams, or maybe a person. You don't check. You climb your stairs. They creak. You pass the man who sleeps in the hallway. You nod. He grunts. You reach your door. Your room is still there. Your straw mat, your single lamp, your one wooden cup. You sit. You exhale. You've eaten. You've bathed. You've laughed. And in Rome, that's a good day. You wake up coughing. Again. Your throat burns. Your head pulses. Your nose is leaking. And your eyes feel like someone shoved a wax tablet behind each one. Welcome to another lovely Roman morning. You're not hungover, not entirely. You're sick. And in Rome, that means one thing: fear. Because here, illness doesn't mean staying home and watching bad theater with a cup of tea. It means danger, poverty, isolation, and maybe, if the gods are cranky, death. There's no word for germ, no theory of contagion. No one knows about bacteria or viruses. All they know is this: bad smells cause disease. The gods punish arrogance. And sometimes, your neighbor sneezes and dies 4 days later. And you live 2 floors above him. Your first mistake? You live in Rome, a city packed tighter than a chariot crash during rush hour. 1 million people jammed into dense, loud, soot-covered streets. You breathe in smoke, sewage, and other people's opinions, constantly. Sanitation is a dream. Streets double as sewers. Public latrines overflow. Water trickles through pipes lined with lead. Yes, lead. The Romans, brilliant as they were, piped your drinking water through poison and wondered why their teeth fell out. Add to that contaminated food, rotten fish, spoiled grain, and those lovely wine jugs flavored with pitch and bits of wasp. Every meal is a microbial lottery, but the real fear? The sudden ones, the fast fevers, the pustules, the black swellings. Rome has no shortage of diseases, and no real way to stop them. Let's meet a few. Tuberculosis, called phthisis, the slow killer. It eats your lungs from the inside. You cough blood. You grow thin. You die whispering. Malaria, especially common in the marshy zones outside the city. Fever, chills, confusion, and then silence. Typhoid, cholera, dysentery, all from dirty water. You drink, you cramp, you bleed, you hope. Leprosy, terrifying and mysterious. Your skin changes. Your nerves go numb. People stop looking you in the eye. And of course, plague. Sometimes local, sometimes empire-wide. One man coughs in a bathhouse, and within weeks, an entire district is silent. You think you're just unlucky. But the priest says it's divine punishment. The augur says the omens were bad. The old woman selling herbs says Mercury is angry. Everyone has a theory. No one has a cure. And yet, the doctors try, sort of. You send for a medicus, the Roman physician, if you can afford one. If he's sober, if he's not dissecting a pig this week. He arrives with a small case of tools, bronze instruments, hooks, needles, scalpels. You suddenly feel worse. He examines your tongue, your pulse, your stool. He says you have an imbalance of humors. That's right, humors. The sacred four: blood phlegm, black bile, yellow bile. According to Roman medicine, your health depends on these four bodily fluids getting along like roommates who barely tolerate each other. Too much phlegm? Take a hot bath and eat cucumbers. Too much black bile? Avoid pork. Too much blood? Well, time to bleed. Bloodletting is the Roman cure-all. You're cut, gently or not, and allowed to drain. Sometimes from the arm, sometimes from behind the ear, sometimes disturbingly from the ankle. The idea is balance. The result is anemia. You feel worse. The doctor nods. It's working, he says. You pay him anyway, not because it helped, because not paying your doctor is also bad luck. There are other treatments too. Herbs, if you can afford them. Licorice root, coriander, garlic soaked in wine. Prayers which are free, but come with guilt. You light incense, offer coins, whisper the name of Asclepius, god of healing. Charms worn around the neck, shaped like eyes, fists, frogs, phalluses. You don't ask how they work, you just wear one and hope the fever stops. Or maybe you go to the temple. You lie on a mat near the altar. You sleep, hoping the god will send you a healing dream, a vision, a whisper, a cure. You wake up sweating, confused, and still sick. The priest tells you to sacrifice a chicken. You do, it doesn't help. But at least now you're sick and missing a chicken. And what happens if you die? Well, first, you become a problem, because Roman funerals are expensive, and most of the poor can't afford a tomb, let alone a procession. So if you're lucky, your neighbors wrap you in a sheet and carry you outside the city to a communal grave. If you're unlucky, you're left in the street until the body collectors arrive. They cart you off, with others, to the puticuli, the burial pits. Mass graves, unmarked and eternal. No gravestone, no ceremony. Just layers of anonymous silence beneath the soil. Romans fear death, but they expect it. It's always there. It watches from the rooftops, coughs in the alley, sleeps in the public baths. Every temple reminds you. Every funeral march. Every whispered prayer. That's why Romans put little tombstones everywhere, lining the roads like sorrowful mile markers. Each one says the same thing. I was like you. You will be like me. So tonight, as you lie back on your straw mat, coughing, sore, and praying to a God who doesn't answer, you wonder, will you wake up tomorrow? Will the fever go away? Will someone remember your name? The oil lamp flickers. The shadows dance on the wall. Somewhere outside, a dog howls, and for a moment, you're not afraid of work or poverty or even war. You're afraid of that final silence, the one that doesn't answer back. Tonight, you're not alone. because even in this crumbling, wheezing Roman tenement, you're part of something older than empire and colder than stone, a family. But if you thought family life in ancient Rome meant warm hugs and bedtime stories, you're about to be very disappointed. This isn't a sitcom, it's survival. And everyone, woman, child, elder, works to keep the family breathing, eating, and out of the burial pit for one more day. Let's start with the women. Not the marble statues, not the goddess Venus with her flowing robes and tasteful fig leaf. The real women. The one next to you, grinding grain with raw, cracked hands. The one hunched over a cooking fire, wiping sweat from her brow with a rag that smells like onions and sorrow. Women in Rome work, not just in the home, but beyond it. They're not allowed to vote, or hold political office, or make legal decisions without a male guardian. But they run households, businesses, stalls at the market. They raise children, brew wine, spin wool, wash tunics, bake bread, treat wounds. Sometimes they even own property, but only if their father or husband dies first, which in Rome is more likely than you'd think. A Roman woman rises early. Her first job, feeding everyone else. She mixes pulse over a clay fire, measures out what's left of the grain, checks the oil jar, sniffs the garum, prays it's not too spoiled, but uses it anyway. Then comes cleaning, fetching water, mending tunics, nursing a baby, scolding another. There is no rest. Even childbirth, something sacred and celebrated today, is a blood-soaked gamble. Roman midwives are skilled, yes, but there's no anesthesia, no sterilization, and no guarantee the gods are listening. A breech birth, a torn womb, a hemorrhage. You could die in minutes. It's no wonder so many prayers are whispered to Juno Lucina, the goddess of childbirth. She doesn't always answer. Still alive? Good. Back to work. Because if your husband dies or leaves or simply drinks away the day, you carry the family alone. You might sell baked goods in the forum, or wash clothes for wealthy women, or act as a wet nurse, breastfeeding other people's babies to feed your own. If you're unlucky, or too beautiful, you might be used in other ways. Tavern work. Entertainment. Men who say they'll pay and leave you nothing but silence. Rome doesn't protect you. It only tolerates you, so long as you serve a purpose. Now let's talk about children. Not the sweet little ones from mosaics holding birds and looking cherubic. The real ones. The ones with lice in their hair and dirt under every fingernail. The ones already working by age 7. Roman children are not coddled. They are trained, hardened. If they live past infancy, that is. Because child mortality is brutally high. 1 in 3 doesn't make it to age 5. Fever, malnutrition, diarrhea, bad water, bad luck. Take your pick. And if a child is born weak, deformed, or simply unwanted, the father has the legal right to reject them. Leave them on a hillside. Abandon them to the gods or to slavers. It's called exposure, and it's as cruel as it sounds. For those who survive, life starts early. Boys might be sent to school, if the family can afford it. They'll learn Greek, Latin, rhetoric, and how to not blink when someone says Carthage. But most don't get that luxury. They start helping in the market, hauling, grinding, fetching. Girls, they help at home. They spin wool, stir pots, rock siblings to sleep, prepare for their future. And that future? Marriage. Often by age 12 or 13. Yes, you heard that right. Puberty isn't the start of adolescence. It's the start of motherhood. She'll marry a man twice her age, maybe older. She'll bear children before her body is ready. And if she dies in childbirth? Well, the household gods were probably displeased. But Roman families aren't just bloodlines. They're dynasties. The father, the paterfamilias, rules with near total authority. Legally, he can arrange your marriage, deny your inheritance, sell you into slavery, even have you executed in theory, in practice. Most Roman dads aren't tyrants, but the power is always there, like a shadow behind every dinner. You respect your father, obey your father, fear your father. Even if you're a grown man with children of your own, your father can still decide your finances, your fate, your funeral. But despite all this, there's still love. Mothers whisper lullabies. Fathers teach sons to carve. Children bring flowers to shrines. Siblings fight, cry, and make up. They laugh. They play. They throw dice, chase dogs, steal fruit, and tell stories by lamplight. There are birthdays, with cakes made of honey and flour. There are tiny toys, dolls, spinning tops, carved horses. There are games scratched into the stone streets. Even among rats and gods and unwashed strangers, joy finds a way. And when someone dies, the family mourns deeply. They tear their tunics, smear ash on their faces, wail in the streets, carry the body by torchlight beyond the city walls. A tomb is carved, a name is etched, and every year, on the anniversary of their death, they bring offerings: bread, wine, salt, flowers. The dead stay with you, on your altar, in your dreams, in the hollow ache where their voice used to be. So yes, Roman family life is hard. It's unfair, it's loud, it's hungry, it's full of fear and expectation. But it's also all you have. Your safety net, your social circle, your religion, your reason. You don't have therapy. You don't have retirement plans. You have people. People who know your name, who wash your wounds, who borrow your spoon and steal your figs and cry when you're gone. So tonight, as you lie beside them, children snoring, wife whispering a prayer to Juno, neighbor mumbling in his sleep, you feel something strange. Not safety. Never that. But belonging. And in Rome, that's enough. The sun is high now. The shadows are short. The air tastes like dust, sweat, and impending decisions. You've eaten, if a bowl of bean gruel counts. You've worked, bled, bargained, and been shouted at. But don't sit down just yet. Because in Rome, rest isn't safe. Not when the streets are simmering. Not when tensions snap like dry olive branches. The truth is, the Roman Empire isn't just statues and scrolls. It's hierarchies, hostility, and heat. And the afternoon is when things boil over. Let's start in the Forum, It's supposed to be the heart of Roman civic life, a space for politics, philosophy, and commerce. But to you, it feels more like an open-air argument that never ends. You're here to buy bread, or maybe hear news, or maybe just kill time before the taverns reopen. But all around you, people are angry. Merchants shouting about unfair taxes, slaves getting whipped for spilling wine, scribes arguing over contracts, soldiers picking fights with street performers. A boy gets caught stealing a piece of fruit. The vendor drags him by the tunic and calls for a lictore, the Roman enforcer. The boy begs. He's maybe 10, maybe younger. He gets 10 lashes and a boot to the ribs. No trial, no warning, just justice, Roman style. You don't intervene. You can't afford to. You keep walking. A man shouts that the aqueduct is blocked again. Another man says his cousin's tenement collapsed. A third rants that the wine is watered down and the gods are deaf. No one listens. Everyone yells louder. You feel the edge in the air. Something's brewing, but no one says it. The plebs are tired. The rich are smug. The slaves are watching. And Rome? Rome is a fire with oil in its veins. You pass by a group of urban cohorts, the city guards. They're supposed to keep order, but they don't patrol. They loom. Their armor shines. Their spears click against the stones. They eye everyone like predators in a crowded den. You nod to them. They don't nod back. Someone jostles you from behind. You spin around. It's a man. Eyes bloodshot. Breath sour. He demands a coin. You don't have one. He demands again. You stand still. Frozen. Another man grabs the drunk by the arm, pulls him away. Just another scuffle. Just another Tuesday. No one intervenes unless there's blood, and even then, only if it stains something valuable. Further down, there's a crowd gathering. You hear shouting, laughter, a name repeated, a trial public and loud. A man is on a platform. His hands are tied. The magistrate reads charges: theft, slander, sedition. The crowd jeers. The accused says nothing. The magistrate declares the punishment: branding. Two men step forward with heated irons. The man screams. The iron hisses. The smell is unforgettable. The letter F for fur, thief, is burned into his forehead. You can't look away. Neither can anyone else. Justice in Rome isn't subtle. It's permanent. And that's if you're a citizen. If you're a slave, you don't get branding. You get crucifixion. The ultimate Roman punishment. Not just for rebellion, for making a point. A slave who strikes his master? Crucified. A runaway? Crucified. Caught teaching other slaves to read? Crucified. They do it publicly, slowly, sometimes hundreds at a time, lining the roads outside the city. A message carved in flesh and rope: know your place. Conflict isn't just vertical, poor versus rich, slave versus master. It's horizontal too. Plebs versus plebs. Everyone's fighting for scraps. There are gangs in the streets, factions aligned with politicians, sports teams, or simply bad tempers. The blues and greens, chariot fans turned thugs. They brawl in the forums. They stab over team colors. They riot when the wrong horse wins. Yes, people riot over chariot racing, because when your life is dictated by hunger and humiliation, you take your victories wherever you can find them. And women, they're caught in all of it, harassed in the streets, blamed for misfortune, used as bargaining chips in family disputes. A woman caught committing adultery might be stripped, beaten, paraded through the streets. The man? He might pay a fine. A widow with no sons could be evicted with a scroll and a shrug. A girl accused of witchcraft could be drowned in the river by men who claim to fear the gods. There's law in Rome, but it bends like a reed in the wind, and the wind always blows in favor of power. If you need help, you can try the courts, but they move slowly. They favor the wealthy. They speak in language that feels like a trap. A man with a better lawyer will always win, even if you have the truth, especially if you have the truth. So instead of law, you hope for luck, or the favor of a patron, someone richer, stronger, connected. You perform favors. You flatter. You wait in line outside his house at dawn, hoping for a coin, a kind word, a chance. Rome is a machine, and you're not part of it. You're fuel. By late afternoon, you've seen 4 fights, 2 arrests, 1 branding, and a dog who somehow was also involved. You are exhausted, not just in body, but in soul. Because every day is a test, not of strength, but of tolerance. How much humiliation can you swallow? How many beatings can you dodge? How much injustice can you pretend not to see? You don't cry. You don't scream. You endure. Because to scream would mean admitting it hurts, and Rome doesn't reward honesty. You turn toward home as the sun slides behind the rooftops. The shadows stretch. The air cools. But the danger doesn't end. Because night in Rome brings new fears, new predators, and not all of them wear armor. The sun is gone, not slipping away. Gone. As if snatched behind the curtain of rooftops and smoky chimneys, and now Rome belongs to the dark. There are no street lamps, no headlights, no cozy orange glow from a window. Just the flicker of oil lamps, the trembling glow of torches, and the things that don't want to be seen. Because in Rome, when night falls, so do the rules. You make your way back to the insula. The streets are quieter, but not calm. They feel held, like a breath before a scream. Footsteps echo louder. Shadows look more like figures. Even the breeze feels suspicious. You pass closed taverns, shuttered stalls, a collapsed drunk curled like a comma near a broken urn. You keep your eyes down. You walk quickly. Not too quickly. You don't want to be noticed. The city watch? They're mostly asleep, or drunk, or guarding senators' estates, not back-alley breadwinners like you. You are on your own. And what should you fear? Let's start with the thieves. They prowl the alleys, knives tucked under cloaks. They take sandals, coins, scraps of bread, whatever you won't fight to keep. Some work in pairs. One distracts, the other bleeds you. You don't even feel the cut until your sandal is wet. If they kill you, they strip your body and leave you for the stray dogs. No one investigates. No one records. Another nameless man with bad luck. Then there are the firebugs. Arsonists for hire. Sometimes they burn down a tavern over a debt. Sometimes they torch an insula for a landlord who wants to rebuild. Fire in Rome isn't a disaster. It's a tool. And your home, made of timber, trash, and hope, is tinder just waiting for a spark. If one building burns, the next one follows. Smoke rolls like a living thing through the narrow streets. People scream, pots crash, and the stairs collapse before you can grab your tunic. You die choking, or crushed beneath rubble, or trampled by neighbors who loved you an hour ago. And even if you survive, you now sleep outside with your hands blistered and your mouth full of ash. The streets themselves are a threat. You can't see where you step. The gutters overflow. The stones are slick with grease and waste. One wrong step and you fall into a puddle that smells like fish and regret, into a cart's path, into someone's waiting arms. Sometimes you don't fall. You're pushed. If you're female, double the danger, triple the caution. The streets whisper. Men lurk. Respectable women stay indoors. But not all have that choice. Some are headed home from work. Some are still working, standing on corners, wearing too much paint and not enough protection. They laugh loud, but their eyes scan every movement. A bad client doesn't just hurt you. He ruins your reputation, or leaves you bleeding where no one will find you until morning. And even if someone hears you scream, they don't always come. You reach the stairwell of your insula. It's worse at night. The boards creak. The air is wet. The darkness wraps around your feet. You grope your way up. A rat scurries past your hand. Someone coughs above you. A wet, angry sound. You pray they live through the night. You reach your door. It sticks. You push. Harder. You're in. Your room is still there. Bare. Silent. Familiar. It smells like smoke, wool, and your own fatigue. You light the oil lamp and immediately regret it. It draws bugs and your neighbor's attention, so you snuff it out. Better to be afraid in the dark than visible in the light. You lie down on your mat. The straw crunches. Something in it shifts. Probably not a blessing. You listen. To the distant yelp of dogs. To the clatter of pottery smashing on the street. To a baby crying 3 rooms over. To someone sobbing next door. To someone else not breathing anymore. You wonder if they're asleep or gone. You won't ask tomorrow. If they're still there, they'll make noise. If not, well, there's always someone to take their place. Sleep doesn't come easily. Your mind spins. Every noise becomes a footstep. Every creak becomes a whisper. Every breath you take feels like it might be the last. You stare at the ceiling, cracked and swaying slightly with every breeze, and you feel it again. That weight, the knowledge that in Rome life is not guaranteed. The next cough could be your last. The next fire could erase you. The next thief might not leave you breathing. And no one, not even the gods, may notice. You remember the funeral you saw last week? A cart with 2 bodies, no names, just linen and silence. One man followed the cart, clutching a bundle of bread. The priest muttered a prayer. The grave was shallow, the dirt was dry, and then they were gone. That could be you. That could be any of us. So you lie still. You don't cry, there's no strength left for that. You just exist. Quiet, waiting, for morning, for safety, for the kind of peace Rome never promised and rarely delivers. And if sleep comes, it comes like everything else in Rome. Rough, uneasy, and brief. Because morning will come again. And with it, labor, hunger, the sponge, the noise. But for now, you close your eyes and hope nothing opens them before dawn. So now you lie still, in the dark, wrapped in a damp, scratchy tunic. Your body sore, your lungs tight, your mind dimly counting the ways Rome tried to kill you today. And somehow, you survived. You made it through the waking coughs and the leaking roofs, through sour bread, bad wine, and water laced with lead. You climbed the splintered stairs. You dodged fire, fists, and filth. You worked, not to thrive, but to not vanish. You survived the Roman Empire, but you're exhausted, not just physically, though your limbs feel like stone and your back feels 3 decades older than it is. You're mentally exhausted, because every hour of every day you had to stay alert. Careful, invisible when necessary, loud when allowed, smart enough to barter, fast enough to run, quiet enough to avoid a whipping, and humble enough to avoid divine punishment. Even sleep is not a guarantee of rest. Your room is hot in summer, icy in winter. The walls creak with your neighbor's breathing. The straw itches. Something small keeps moving near your ankle. And still, this is home. So let's step back now, slowly, gently, out of the past, out of the empire. Let's remember just how far we've come. Because tonight, you don't have to haul buckets of water up 3 flights of stairs. You don't have to carry a chamber pot into a crowded alley, dodging donkey carts and thrown slop. You have indoor plumbing, a toilet, a sink, a toothbrush that isn't made of twigs. You don't have to sleep in a room filled with coughing strangers, rats, or curses scratched into the doorframe. You have a bed, a real one, with sheets that smell clean, a pillow that holds your head like it means it, maybe a fan humming softly, maybe a phone nearby, not to check for auguries, but to set an alarm for breakfast that won't give you dysentery. You live in a world where fevers are treated, not feared, where childbirth doesn't have to mean a funeral, where your water is safe and your bread is soft, where darkness doesn't bring fear, just quiet. No one's praying to Lares to keep the tenement from collapsing. No one's reading your fortune in goat livers. No one is branding you for stealing a loaf of bread. If you get sick, you can see a doctor who won't bleed you until you faint. If you get tired, you can rest without worrying if a fire will race up the stairwell like a curse. You are not waiting for the knock of a tax collector, or a slave catcher, or a soldier bored enough to start a fight. Your name isn't scratched onto a curse tablet. You're not clutching your last coin and hoping the fish sauce isn't spoiled. You're just here, breathing, safe, free. So take a long, slow breath, and another. Let your jaw relax. Unclench your hands. Unfurrow your brow, the one that carried all the tension of imagined ancient survival. You don't live in the Roman Empire. You dreamed it tonight. But you don't have to wake up there. Tonight, you don't have to scrape mold off your bread. You don't have to wipe with a communal sponge. You don't have to risk your life to carry bricks across a crowded forum while someone quotes Cicero at you. You don't have to bargain with a merchant who cheats you, or worship a god who punishes you for spilling olive oil, or whisper a prayer to the ceiling in a room where sleep is never truly safe. You just have to lie still, breathe slowly, and drift. The empire can wait. Let the stones crumble. Let the torches fade. Let the chickens scream and the amphorae break and the forum fill with smoke. You are not there. Not anymore. You're here. In a room with no rats. With walls that don't whisper. With quiet. With peace. You survived ancient Rome. And now, you get to do the one thing the plebeians never really could. Sleep. Deeply. Safely. Without fear. So tonight, as you drift off, remember, you don't have to wake up in the Roman Empire. Sleep well. You've earned it.